Well, welcome everyone to this month's edition of the Wild Wednesday webinar. You've probably guessed that I am not Paul Kiwi. I'm a very poor substitute. My name is Bill Petrie and I'm with Brandivate, and Paul asked me to step in and help facilitate this meeting today. So I'll be your host as we bring you this terrific webinar. As always, Wild Wednesday webinars are sponsored by MIPA, TISPA, OPA, PPA Chicago, PPAAW, UMAP, PPA Midwest, and AZPPA. Today's webinar is worth 1 CAS point. To receive credit, go ahead and complete the survey that you'll be directed to as you leave today's program. If you have any questions during today's presentation, please go ahead and enter them into the chat box on the left side of your screen. So today's presentation is called Creating Digital Content to Build an Online Presence, and it's going to be presented by the lovely and talented Bryony Zasman of Zoom Catalog. Bryony is the co-founder and director of marketing of Zoom Catalog, and she was named an Industry Rising Star in 2012 by PPAI and has received recognitions for accomplishments by Inc. Magazine and CNBC. Bryony, take it away.
All right, thank you, Bill. And I just want to make sure everybody can see my screen. So maybe you can just type in the chat box that we're good to go, and I'll get started. Or Bill, you can maybe confirm that the screen is all set.
We're good to go.
Okay, perfect. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you all so much for taking time to attend my webinar today, and I hope you learn a lot, or at least learn something from it. So what I'm going to be presenting to you is your online presence, what that entails, and how you're setting that up, what you're telling your customers when they're finding you online. So your online presence is made up of a lot of different things. Obviously, first and foremost, it's your website. Of course, also social media, review sites, online advertising, email marketing, and possibly other areas as well. But these are the main ones I'm going to focus on today. And we're going to talk about setting them up and making sure that content is relevant to your brand. So we're going to start talking about websites. Your homepage of your website is the first impression a customer gets of you when they come to your website. So the homepage is really important. It's like a storefront. When you walk into a store, you're going to make a lot of assumptions about that company based on how that store looks. And the same goes for your customers entering your website. So I did include 2 little clips of some old school websites on here, just to show you how negative people can feel when they come to your website based on how it looks and feels. So I'm going to give you some tips on how to set up specifically your homepage to really get your message across and invite your users in and encourage them to then take the next step, whether that's to find products on your website, request a quote, contact you for more information. So the main purpose of your homepage should be to attract people and captivate them. You want to get their attention right off the bat so they don't bounce. You also want to educate them on what your company does and why you exist, and also why you are relevant to them. And then you also want to have a call to action. You want to keep that call to action very clear and concise, and the main purpose of the homepage. Oftentimes people put way too much on their home pages or way too many call to actions, and that will end up in a user bouncing off of your site or ending up somewhere where you don't want them to go. So further on in this presentation, I'm going to show you a model on how to decide what type of information to include on your home page and other pages of your website. This is just a little website example, a screenshot I took. This is a site called Chime. It's a new bank that's available, and I just really like their homepage. I wanted to show it to you guys because they have kept it extremely simple. You learn exactly what they do. They're going to give you a bank account, and they have a way for you to get started. So there's very little on this homepage, so it's very effective in getting the user to do the next step. So your homepage is going to establish your identity and what you do and what you have to offer. So you want to come up with a value statement, a statement about who you are that you can put on a homepage. And as you go explore the web, you'll see that many of the larger companies with nice websites have the look that Chime did. So They have a value statement, what they do, and a call to action. And that value statement is really important to your website. Oftentimes, homepages are overcomplicated. They detract from the main goal of the website. And again, I'll show you a core model process to identify what information you should include and how to reduce the overcomplication of things. Another website example, this is actually a company my friend started. They've been very successful, and their website changes all the time. But this is what they have currently, and it's amazing, I think. You should check it out, movementstrategy.com. But from their homepage, you immediately know who they are and what they do. So they're a full-service social media agency. Very clear, and I have 4 options. I can see their work, their capabilities, their blog, or contact them. So this is just a really good example of how not to overcomplicate your website to be very effective with getting your message across. Again, just reiterating, we need to keep it simple. So less content, less design is going to help you get your message across. Oftentimes, people want to add a million images or too many details, too many options, large blocks of text, and it's actually going to detract from the overall goal. So less is more in this case. You also want to stick with one font, 2 max, to keep things really clean. We oftentimes see websites that have adopted multiple fonts, and it can become very messy and distracting. So when you start deciding on how you're going to build your website, choose one font and then use that throughout the entire site. You also want to keep a lot of white space. White space doesn't necessarily have to be white, but open space. So like we saw here with the movement strategy site, there's not a lot of clutter. It's very clean and very concise. And then we're going to talk about UX a little bit shortly, but the UX is how things are laid out, what buttons are where, what labels are where, and you really need to pay attention to this because a lot of times you can make assumptions that your customer knows exactly where to click to learn about your company or to search for your products, and oftentimes that's not the case. So focusing on your UX will help you refine it to get customers to move the way you want them throughout your website. So I will give you some tips on how to monitor, test, and revise that UX ongoing. Another website example here, this is Hulu. Again, a lot of white space, very concise message, and a call to action. So start your free trial. And again, you can kind of see a trend with these websites that I'm showing you, but I think that they are the most effective websites on, the best way to set up a website currently. So you call to action, your value statement, and very little else on there so that you can get your user moving in the direction you want them to go. So you want to choose supporting images. Images can oftentimes completely detract from a website, and I know specifically in our industry, I don't see a lot of distributor websites that have very good imagery on them. Websites are a very visual medium, so people are going to make a lot of conclusions based on what they see as opposed to what they read. So you want to choose images or an image that is representative of your brand and your personality. My suggestion, especially for distributors, is you may want to capitalize on the hard work and money that suppliers are investing in getting photography done. You can maybe page through the Sandmark catalog and find an image that really represents your brand, and you could maybe contact that supplier and ask permission to use that as your feature image. So I think that there's a lot of photography out there that distributors can access and can get permission to use, but for some reason we don't really see that very much in our industry. We see more stock art, and we see a lot of banners that are default banners from service providers. So really think about what your image on your website, especially on your homepage, is telling your user and how it's making your users feel and what it's getting them to do next. Again, also less is more here. So one supporting image on a homepage is generally enough. And that's kind of what you've seen in the examples I've shown you so far. Yeah, another website example. Just a little disclaimer. I'm not sure why all the headers and colors on my slides have kind of disappeared, but it's working, so I'll just continue on. But this is a website where you can see the supporting image. So this is a new company called Boaks, and they have their value statement, a call to action, and then an image that really gives you a good feel for their company. So navigation, labels, and text. I touched on this a little bit when I mentioned the UX before. But websites before going live have two main elements, the UX and the UI. So the UX is the experience for the user, how they navigate, how the website's laid out, where the buttons are, and how usable the website actually is. And then the user interface is the branding and the visual design. So to picture it, the UX is kind of like a blueprint for your website, and then the UI is once you've applied design to that blueprint to bring it to life and to match your brand and your company's identity. Now, a lot of times we see companies designing their website, focusing on design, putting together the layout and the navigation, and then plugging in their text and their content. And this is actually a really big mistake. It's important when building a page or web pages or even your entire website to work on the content first. You need to come up with a content strategy. What information is going to be on each page, and what is the goal of that content? Once you've written that content, you can then start building out your web page and deciding on layout and usability. So the next thing I'm going to show you is a little technique we use here. We've used it at Zoom Catalog a lot to decide on the content that's going to show up on web pages. So this technique is called the core business model, and it's not showing up here. Again, I don't know why my slides are going a little crazy, but this technique can be very effective. So you're going to want to build this for each core page of your website. As a distributor, your core pages are most likely your home page, an about us, how to order, possibly a search page. And so for each of these pages, you're going to want to, first of all, define the goals of that page, your business goals. Then you're going to define the user tasks. So what is the user coming to that page to do? You'll also define the inward path. So how is the user coming to that page? Maybe they get to the page through Google. Maybe if it's the About Us page, they got there from the home page. Maybe from email marketing. And then you're going to want to think about your forward paths. Now that they're on this page, where are they going to go? So maybe they then go to order from you, or they go to contact you, or maybe they leave your website altogether. Once you're able to establish your business goals, your user tasks, your inward paths, and your forward paths, it can become really easy to define what core content you need on that page. And the core content is going to be the text and the supporting images you want to include on the page to get those users' tasks complete and the forward paths accessible. Now that might sound a little complex, so what I've done on the next page is I've put together a really basic example of a core model for a distributor's homepage. So for a homepage, you may have different business goals than some other distributors, but for the most part, your homepage goals may be to get the visitor to request a quote, to educate the visitor about your services, to get the visitor to sign up for an account with you, possibly to get them to search for a particular product, or to get them to contact you. Now, your business goals when writing these need to be measurable. So this first one, get visitor to request a quote, is very easily measurable. We may measure that by making sure there is a request a quote button, and then we can measure how many quotes we get from that. So you can actually measure if your business goals are being met from a particular page. And if they're not, you're going to then adjust your core content to make them to make those goals meet those goals. The next one here, educate visitor about your services, is going to be much harder to measure, but it will be measurable if you really start to think about those forward paths. What do we need to measure to know that they were educated by this page? Well, maybe they then went and ordered a product, or then went and searched. So definitely think about being able to measure these goals rather than just having them and assuming that they're being met. You're then going to define your user tasks. So the user is the customer coming to your home page. What are they trying to achieve? So they might want to find a product for their event, learn more about your services, or they might be there just to request a quote. So we want to make sure that the page supports that and allows them to achieve the tasks that they want to do on the page. We kind of already touched on inward paths and forward paths, but for this particular home page, as a distributor, you might be getting traffic to it from search engines, blogs, social media, email marketing, press, presentations, anything like that. And it's really a good way to, as you list them, to make sure that your inward paths are met and you're optimizing your website on the web. And then again, forward paths are going to help you decide on that core content, because you need to make sure that if these are the paths you want your user to take, that they are very easy to find on the page you're designing. So now we've defined these elements for the core content of a distributor's homepage, and this content must achieve the business goals. So now you can write about your company and possibly include a call to action right there, request a quote button, sign up. You want to make sure the search is really easy to find, the contact information is easy to get to. So your core content will now be defined by your business goals. This is a really basic example, but as you get more into pages like About Us or what value you offer to your customers, building a core model like this can be very helpful to decide on that content. And then, of course, just other pages of your websites that you may want to apply the model to. Your About Us page, your marketing pages, the search, your Contact Us, how to order. And then there's obviously many other pages you can include. Again, I do think oftentimes people overcomplicate their websites by adding too many tabs and buttons and pages. So I think for promotional product distributors that do not have a robust website solution right now, or are using, a cookie cutter website and looking to get out of that, focusing on, your main 5 or 6 pages to build out your website can be a really good strategy to get started. And then from there, you can look at adding additional pages like a blog or a news page, events, and these will all help you with your SEO. But don't put priority on the additional pages just to build SEO and then forget about really building quality pages, that your main quality pages. So that's my advice on building your website and your online presence through your website. Overall, you just want to make sure you're keeping it simple and making your users' stories really easy. A user story is how they're navigating through your website, and we'll touch on that again shortly. The next online presence you all have is your social media. I'm not going to get too in-depth on this because I think we're all a little over the social media presentations. We've all probably paid a lot of attention to this as it is very important to your brand. So I do want to mention it. I could probably do an entire other presentation on social media, but it is a really important way to build your online presence. So I've listed some social media sites here. There are a million of them out there, and it can be overwhelming, especially for a smaller distributor, to be able to maintain all of them. So you're going to want to focus on the ones that you are finding your customers using. Most likely it's going to be Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and maybe Google+. All these others are good and you might have your customers on them, but I think for our industry, the ones I named are going to be mostly where you reach your customers. I did include Snapchat here. I have to admit, I do not use Snapchat. I do know brands are using it. I have some friends who use it for their companies and do it really well, but I don't, so I'm not going to speak to that too much. Another area of social media that people oftentimes overlook is your local directories. Directories like Yelp and the Google directory, as well as Dex, anywhere online where you can list your business associated with your location. This is probably the best way to build your SEO for your company. You can go on Google and do Google advertising and try optimize with keywords like promotional products or whatever those are, but you're competing with an extremely large audience and are most likely not going to have much success at all. What you can do, though, is focus on building SEO in your local area. So make sure your distributorship is listed in Yelp with your address and everything so that people in your area can find you. This is a screenshot of me searching for promotional products in Boulder. And it's actually surprising that not too many people have listed their companies, because I know that there's more than what I found here. So this could be a really great way for you to capitalize on an unused resource or an unused marketing channel that your competitors are not in yet. So get yourself listed and then ask your customers to review you. The reviews are huge. This company here, Two Hands Papery, has 38 reviews and 4 stars. I'm going to be much more inclined to use them than this agency that has 5 stars, but only 1 review. So the reviews are also very important. And also, of course, on Google, you can list your company and get reviews there as well. Those are the 2 main places I would focus. And then there may be some more local directories that you can look at, like your Chamber of Commerce. So just keep in mind that you need to make sure your company is listed and your people are finding you where they're looking for you. So you need to think about how your networks support your brands. You need to keep them consistent. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, your post goals are going to be a little bit different, but you want to make sure, the images are the same or similar. So you want to keep your branding consistent across all of them. I also recommend that whatever personality you've given your company, the tone that you use and the way you interact with customers, I would also keep that consistent across the platforms as well. So if you're fun and engaging on Facebook, you will want to do the same on Twitter and same on LinkedIn. So you want to keep consistent your brand identity, the branding elements, your goals and values, and then of course you want to connect your networks. So encouraging people to access your content on your blog through Twitter and LinkedIn, or encouraging people to access your Facebook content through Twitter and so forth. So cross-referencing there can really build your network up as well. And then, of course, I mentioned you're going to want to tailor the message to the platform without sacrificing that consistent identity. So I found this table that I thought did a really good job of breaking down the different networks and the type of content you want to promote on each. So the ones I want to focus on here are Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and possibly Instagram. So for Facebook, you can see it has the most users, and I think that's not going to change anytime soon. So definitely focus on your Facebook presence. This is a great place to build relationship with customers. So you don't want to use Facebook just to promote specials every day. You actually want to focus more on providing engaging content that gets your customers thinking, or educates them about something about your company or what you're doing. Testimonials work great, but a company that's just posting sales and flyers every day constantly really isn't going to get as much traction as somebody who's using Facebook to build their relationships with their customers. And it can build that brand loyalty. As your customers interact with you more and more, they can really become a very loyal customer. As they've said down here, the only downside is limited reach. Ever since Facebook has made it so you have to promote your posts, it is difficult to get your posts into the news feeds of the people you want. So I will get into online advertising and advertising on Facebook, and it may be something you want to consider. But it does have limited reach, so it is an important thing to remember. But building the engagement can increase that reach. So the more people commenting and liking will get your post seen by more people. So if you are engaging, you can get posts seen without promoting them or paying for them to be in people's news feeds. Next up is Twitter. I used to use Twitter a lot more than I do now. I have thousands of followers, and I honestly don't really know how I got them all. Twitter's a little bit of an anomaly to me. I have trouble really getting any value out of it when I'm looking at my news feed there, because there is just so much spam going out. But the main value I do see with Twitter is that your tweets do get indexed. So you're helping your SEO by using that platform. It's a great place to post your news, your articles, any blog posts. And again, that's helping you just get more reach with that content and getting them into more search engines. And then you can also use Twitter to speak with people, engage with people. But I think in our industry, I'm not sure I've seen any distributor be too successful with using Twitter to build their brand. LinkedIn is another one that's kind of underestimated, I think, and underused. Set your company up with a profile in LinkedIn, again, just for the very fact that it's going to get indexed by search engines and another way for people to find your company and learn about what you do. But it is also a really good place to post your news and articles. You can actually get, it's almost like a blog. So if you don't have a blog, you can post blog posts on your LinkedIn page and get pretty much as much recognition with those posts as you would with a regular blog. So it's a really great supplement. And then last one I want to discuss is Instagram. We're seeing more and more companies starting to use Instagram for business. We recently got Zoom Catalog on there, and the engagement has actually been much higher than I expected. So it is a really nice way to reach out to your customers as well. You can do promoted posts on Instagram, and I'll touch on that. And I actually think that's a pretty good way to advertise online right now. I don't think too many people are doing it yet. So it could be a good place to start where your competitors are not. So again, I don't want to talk too much about social media content, the exact type of content, because I think that many of you have probably attended a lot of webinars on this. But just to reiterate, your posts really shouldn't be selling too much. You can do some sales and some promotions, but for the most part, you want to focus on educating and engaging your followers. You want to keep consistent, be relevant, and then always include a call to action. So make sure there's something to click through to or download or comment on, and create that engagement with each and every post you do. All right, now we're moving on to online advertising. Online advertising is tricky. There's a lot of different places you can invest in advertising. The ones we've looked at Zoom, or actually not just looked at, have used are Google remarketing. We've done Facebook posts. We've done promoted posts on Instagram. We have not done much on Twitter and LinkedIn or Yelp, but I did want to include those because as distributors, I think those could be some really great places to reach your customer. So the first one I want to talk about is Google remarketing. So for those of you that don't know what Google remarketing is, it helps you reach people that have visited your website. So when you sign up for the program, you actually put a little bit of code on the back end of your site, and Google will then be able to track who has visited your site. And then as they continue to move around the web, they will see the ads that you've added to Google remarketing consistently for I think it's 30 days, but you can change the expiration of that user. So as they continue to different places on the web, anywhere that's in Google's network, they possibly are going to see ads for your company. A good way to understand this is you've probably maybe gone to a website like Zappos and looked at a shoe and then ended up on Facebook or somewhere else, and they're advertising that shoe to you. So they're using remarketing in that case. They're capitalizing on what you did on their website and what you showed interest in. So this is something that distributors can adopt. It can get expensive, and it does take time and trial and error to get working. So at first, it is a little bit hard to measure that if it's working or not, but I think it's worthwhile looking into. This page I've just shown how with Zoom, we had to create multiple images. So this is what you'll have to do if you do decide to go forward with Google remarketing. It's very time consuming. So this is just 6 images, but you actually have to, for every ad, make it in about, I think, 20 to 25 different sizes so that it can display in all the different places it possibly can, including mobile, network sites, search engines, and so forth. So then you not only want to create the different sizes of each image, you want to create different images so you can measure them against each other and find out really what's most effective. So getting ramped up on Google remarketing is time consuming, but once you do figure out what's working, you can actually really start to create a lot of engagement and getting people to click back and return to your website. Facebook advertising is another one that we've done quite a bit at Zoom Catalog. We like it because you can target your network. So we spent a lot of time and put a lot of effort into building our network on the Zoom Catalog Facebook page. Prior to having to promote your posts, if somebody liked your page, they would see your posts, which was awesome. So we were able to build our network and then communicate with them. Since then, Facebook has made it so that regardless of if a person likes your page or not, you pretty much have to promote a post to get seen. And you get to choose who to put those posts in front of. So for Zoom, we spend a lot of time building that network. We have a really large following. And so when we create ads on Facebook, we can choose just to have the people who like our page see them. For us, it works really well because we work with suppliers and distributors, and our customer base is much smaller. But for you as a distributor, you are going to look at advertising maybe more locally, or possibly to a particular niche market that you work with. So these are different types of objectives that you can do with Facebook advertising. Most simply, just getting somebody to click to your website. I'm not going to read all of these, but you'll be able to read this slide in the future. But some good ones to keep in mind are product catalog promotions. So if you have products on your website, you can get those to be advertised through Facebook. Another one that's really important, I think, for distributors is local awareness. So you can choose your targeting by defining your area and your demographic, your age range, and really get these in front of the people in your area. So you will be able to work on that targeting a little bit more in depth than you can with Google remarketing. So creating Facebook ads can be a little tricky. They're pretty strict in terms of what they accept. They do not want images that have too much text on them. It's a fight I've had to get through every time we create an ad. We have to make sure that the ad has no more than 20% text or less. And that includes logos on items. I think recently they made a few changes, but if you're putting an image of a catalog cover, any text will count as text. So focusing on what the image of your ad is important. You'll get rejected if you upload an image with too much text on it, and that's happened to me and it's frustrating, so keep it in mind. Also, use your recommended sizes. You don't want your image showing up pixelated or stretched, so when you go into Facebook, it will recommend what size you make your image. And then use compelling images, of course. Don't just use an iStock photo, something that people have seen before. So this screenshot is 2 ads from my newsfeed. They obviously know that I am in the promotional product industry, and both of them are pretty effective, I think. So I just wanted to include them as an example. So this is just a quick visual of where your Facebook ads will appear once you've added them to or uploaded them to Facebook. So there's 2 main places, of course, on the web and then on mobile, which will require different image sizes as well. You can actually choose for your ads just to show on mobile or just web if needed. You have your main center image. These ads are very large, probably the most effective. You also have your ads appear in the side of the news feed. This is the example I have on this page where it showed on the side. It's much smaller, so it's a little bit trickier to make effective. You have much less text to work with as well when you enter your message below the ad. Your image will show in news feeds on the Facebook app. And now you can also have your ads show up in Instagram mobile. And that's what I mentioned earlier. I think that this is underutilized at this time. So it might be a really good place to get started with online advertising. Moving on to email marketing. Email marketing is another really great way to build your online presence and drive traffic to your website. So email marketing 101, you want to make sure you have a clean database. If there are any suppliers on this call, this is something I think that many of you do not do well. You probably pay third-party companies to do your email blasts for you, when really you should be managing your database and creating opt-in forms, getting distributors to choose to get your emails. And for distributors, you want to do the same. So you want to have a database of your customers that's clean and that has your current customers and is kept up to date. People to opt in. So when you're getting people to opt in, you can do that through your website, social media, at trade shows and so forth. But opting in is really important. It's actually illegal to upload a list of, a bot list of users and then blast to them. So to build a quality list that's going to work effectively, you need to encourage people to opt in and give them reason to opt in. Design is similar to website. You want to keep it simple, straightforward, include a call to action. And then, of course, you want to track, test, and refine any email marketing you do. There's some really awesome platforms out there you can use to do this, and I'm going to show you those next. There's two different types. So there's one where I called it basic email marketing, but it's technically really not basic. These platforms are very robust, and they have a lot of different functionality in them. But you can use either MailChimp, Constant Contact, Vertical Response, or many others actually. And these services will allow you to upload your customer database and then easily use templates to create effective emails that you can send out to your list of people that have opted in to receive them. MailChimp is the one I would recommend. I think that their platform is awesome. It's really intuitive and it's built really nicely. And they actually also have a free forever plan. So if you have under 2,000 subscribers, which is probably most of you, you can do this at no cost. And again, these tools will allow you to manage your subscribers, send emails, and track your results. There is some email automation tools being added to MailChimp. I'm not too familiar with them, but for keeping it simple, these tools will allow you to engage with your database and send them relevant marketing content. The other type of email is email automation or marketing automation. So my three examples here are Salesforce, Pardot, which is from Salesforce, HubSpot, and Marketo. We at Zoom Catalog actually use Marketo. So marketing automation is much more complex than sending email blasts out through MailChimp. It'll streamline, automate, and measure your marketing tasks and workflows. So it's not, set up an email, blast it out, and then do another one next week. We have a lot of channels set up so that specific communications are sent to users based on actions they take. And those actions may be clicks on our website, forms they've filled out, getting scanned at a trade show, and so forth. So we have modified Marketo to really work for us, and emails are triggered by events that our users take. One of the campaigns we have set up in Marketo that's very effective is a nurture campaign. You as a distributor or a supplier actually may have ended up in one of these at some point. So a nurture campaign is set up for an email series to go out to a specific customer if they engage in an action. So for us, in this example, this is our supplier nurture. If a supplier signs up for an account on Zoom Catalog, which is the defined action, they are moved into this stream, the stream of content. In this stream, we have 8 different emails, and they're set to go out every 2 weeks on Wednesday at 10 a.m. So once the supplier signs up with us, every 2 weeks for 8 weeks, they're going to get an email from us with another tool tip or another relevant piece of information about our services. Now, it might sound like this could get annoying for a user, but we really make sure that our content in these emails is relevant and educational and is providing value. And we've actually redesigned these drips a number of times based on how our users are interacting on them. So that's where it comes in really important to track and measure how people are using the content you're sending. So we also have a nurture campaign set up for distributors. If a distributor signs up for an account, they'll be added to a nurture campaign. And again, you'll get an email every 2 weeks a new tooltip, or a new way to use Zoom Catalog. And of course, there's an unsubscribe, so anybody can choose to opt out at any point if they want to. The next effective thing we're able to use with Marketo, and I actually think you can set up landing pages with MailChimp as well now. But landing pages are a really great way to gather customer information and get people into your database. So you can set up a landing page to promote a specific product, an event. If you have, maybe an educational ebook that you've written, you can set that up with a landing page. It's going to be separate from your website. It's usually probably linked through via a social media post or an email. And the goal is to get the user to fill in the form. Now with Marketo, anytime somebody visits our website, they are tracked as an anonymous user. So we're identifying you as an IP address. And as soon as that user fills in a form on a landing page, we now know who they are. So we are able to build really in-depth customer stories about each website visitor. So we'll know what they did prior to filling in that form and then what they did in the future. And I have a slide on customer stories, which I'll get into shortly, but they really help you refine your website and refine your online presence as well. So again, purpose of a website is to capture leads and then enable you to market to those people. They can also be set up to warm up potential customers and get them into a sales funnel. So here's just two little landing pages that I got off of Google. Really basic. Basically, they have a message, a value add, and a call to action. So for this, if we fill in this form, we're going to get an exclusive course from this guy. So you may want to fill in this form to get that, and now they know who you are and have your information and can market to you. And then this one is more of incentive based. You can get information on this vacation spot. So again, it's just another way for this company to get you to fill in a form and then know who you are. All right, so user stories. User stories are how your users, your visitors, are interacting with your website and your content. So you'll be able to, at least with Marketo, track their movements. You can also do this with Google Analytics. If you integrate or if you use a CRM, a lot of CRMs will allow you to do this. But for us at Zoom Catalog, we use Marketo, which is integrated with Salesforce. So if we go to one of our customers in Salesforce, we're able to see anything they've opened, any pages they visited. We can see maybe that they opened this email that we sent on the 3rd, ended up on our website, came back on the 5th, and downloaded information the next day. So these user stories can tell us if our website is being used the way we want, if people are moving through the website the way we need them to, and if the pages are accomplishing our goals. And the user stories will also help us refine the content on our websites and in our emails. We can see if a user drops off, we can maybe conclude that that email needs to be adjusted or that website needs to be adjusted. Another tip I have for capturing user stories is there's a software called Inspectlet. You can install it on your website, and it actually videos your users on your website. So you can see how they're moving their mouse, what they're typing, and what they're clicking on. So you can see their story by videoing how they are on the site. And again, it's anonymous. It sounds a little creepy, but it's really just information you can use to make decisions about your website. All right, so overall, what's the key to your online presence? It's really just understanding your customers and how they're interacting and what they want to consume. So you want to know how they interact with your websites, your social posts. You want to make sure you are tracking the emails and knowing what they click through on so that you can make better decisions about your emails in the future. And you want to make sure you're tracking your online advertising and seeing which ones are getting the most engagement. So that's my presentation. I know it was a lot of information here today. Hopefully it was informative to you all. My slides will be available so you can download them. And my information is also here. So if you have any questions about not only Zoom catalog, but maybe any tips or anything that I presented you today, feel free to reach out to me.
Thanks, Bryony. That was really, really great. While we wait and see if there's any questions, I actually had a quick question. When
Sure.
you went through the social media part of it, I think it's interesting how that part is changing so rapidly.
Hmm.
You mentioned Google Plus, and I would say maybe Google Plus is on the way out. What do you see as the
Hmm.
future in terms of social media? Maybe over the next 12, 18 months, in terms of what platform do you think will be the most effective for business use?
Yeah, so what I think is getting more and more popular are posts that engage through pictures or video. So I think that's why Instagram is getting so big. It's much more visual. People don't really want to read. And I think that's also why Snapchat is growing so fast. You're able to tell a story with a quick video or a quick photo. And so that's where I see the future going. I think it's going to be less about, educational blocks of text, but more an engaging educational video or photo.
Oh, awesome. Great answer. We do have a question from Lisa. She asks, as a supplier, do you still agree that Facebook shouldn't be selling product? So I assume meaning shouldn't be used to sell specific product.
So I agree with that to an extent. It really depends on the company. For example, if you are following a company like Zappos, they're most likely going to be promoting products and selling their products. But as a distributor, you don't sell one particular item. You're really selling your value that you can add to another company. So, the word selling is a little vague, but you don't want to sit there and, be putting buy this product for, 19.99 every day. You want to be more talking about your value and educating your followers. Do you
Awesome.
agree with that, Bill? I know that you
I do.
are kind of in the
I
realm of that
do.
as well.
I do. I do post a lot of my content on Facebook because it just reaches the audience I want to reach.
Right.
So I don't. I believe in the 80-20 rule. 80% of the things I will post for my business will be kind of giving it away for free, for lack of a better term. And then
Hmm.
20% will be kind of the ask, hey, engage me here, click here, things like that. So 80-20 for me in terms of non-calls to action and calls to action.
All right.
I don't think we have any more questions, but thank you again for doing such a great job, Bryony, and thank you for everybody who attended today. Paul asked me to remind you to mark your calendars for next month when industry public relations superstar Lisa Horn, who is fabulous, she's going to be presenting on Wednesday, October the 26th, right before Halloween, with some great advice on how to promote your business. So again, Bryony, thank you for such a great presentation, and thank
Sure.
you all for attending. Have a great
Yes,
day,
thank you,
everybody.
everybody. And thank you, Bill. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.